On a blistering afternoon, the sun blazed relentlessly, casting its unforgiving gaze upon the streets. This was the kind of heat that seemed to seep into every crevice of life. But for Lily, a young deaf girl of barely 16, it was a torment that gnawed at her insides. She stood at the corner of a busy intersection, her frail body trembling, a mere shadow of the vibrant girl she once was. Today, she was nothing more than a pair of sunken eyes, a few tattered clothes clinging to her thin frame, and an outstretched hand, desperately grasping for something as basic yet vital as water. Despite the scorching heat, it was the thirst that held her captive. Her throat felt like sandpaper, parched from days without nourishment. The world around her pounded with sound, a symphony of honking horns and hurried footsteps. Yet, Lily lived in a silence deeper than any ocean, a silence enforced by her inability to hear the noise of life bustling around her. It was the kind of silence that made her feel invisible, like a ghost haunting the streets, unseen and unheard. As she stood there, her heart raced with anxiety. She observed the feet passing by. Some hurried to their destinations, while others wandered aimlessly, but none seemed to notice her. With trembling hands, she held a small, hastily made cardboard sign that read, "Please, I am thirsty." Each time someone glanced her way, hope flickered in her chest, but it would extinguish just as quickly as it appeared. It was as if she were a part of the pavement, something to be walked over, ignored, and forgotten. Then, amidst the tide of indifference, a flicker of movement caught her eye. An elegantly dressed man was making his way towards her, his polished shoes gleaming in the sunlight. It was Mr. Thompson, a wealthy lawyer known in the community for his stern demeanor yet surprising compassion. He looked powerful, his suit was tailored, and his confident gait exuded authority. But in that moment, as he locked eyes with Lily, something froze in him. For a brief instant, the noise of the world faded away. The lawyer's heart pounded in his chest, not merely from surprise, but from an unease that settled deep within his conscience. He had seen plenty of hardship in his work, victims of neglect, children abused by those meant to protect them, but seeing this young girl, so frail and desperate, struck a chord he couldn't shake. Lily looked up at him, her eyes wide and filled with a quiet dignity that belied her situation. She held his gaze, her lips parting slightly as if to speak, though no words would come out. Instead, she raised her sign higher, pleading silently for understanding. The corners of her mouth twitched, betraying a flicker of hope as she sensed that perhaps he might help her. But what could a girl like her hope for? She was the daughter of a man who deemed her deafness and misfortune deserving of ridicule rather than compassion. Her father, fueled by bitterness and an insatiable thirst for control, had manipulated her condition to silence not just her voice, but her very existence. As a child, Lily had once dreamt of a life filled with laughter, music, and friendships. But as she grew, so did the weight of her father's neglect, a heavy chain that bound her to solitude. The memories flooded back, days spent in the dark corners of her home while her father raged, his voice a storm even if she couldn't hear the words, the angry gestures, the contempt that dripped from his every action. It was clear to her that she was a burden to him. At school, the children laughed because they could hear the sounds of the world, while she was left behind, struggling to catch up, confined to a realm of silence that deepened her isolation. Mr. Thompson stood frozen, feeling the weight of his own privilege pressed down on him. The world he inhabited seemed so starkly different from the reality this girl faced each day. He had everything: wealth, status, a powerful voice in society. Yet here was this fragile girl, trembling with thirst, seeking something so simple, so human. "What is your name?" he asked, his voice steady but unexpectedly gentle. It felt surreal, almost foreign to speak in such a caring tone while she stood in a world that often turned a deaf ear to those in need. Lily's face lit up, a brief spark of recognition gracing her features as she pulled out a small notebook she always carried. With practiced fingers, she wrote down, "Lily. Lily," he repeated, savoring the name as if it were a precious gem. In that moment, she became more than a mere figure on the corner. She was a person with a name, a story, and undeniably, a right to be seen and heard. He crouched down, meeting her at eye level, his expression softening. "Lily, are you thirsty? I can help you." Her heart leaped at his words, a flicker of hope igniting the dim corners of her spirit. Desperation clawed at her throat, and she nodded slowly, tears pooling in her eyes as she fought to contain the overwhelming wave of emotions that threatened to engulf her. As he reached into his pocket for his wallet, a sharp voice pierced through the air, a horrible, familiar sound. "What are you doing? Don't waste your time on that beggar." It was her father's voice, cutting through the silence like a knife. Lily's heart sank as she turned to see him approaching, his rigid posture towering over Mr. Thompson like a dark cloud. The air turned thick with tension, and suddenly, the kindness the lawyer had shown felt fragile, like glass about to shatter. "Stay away from her," her father snapped, eyes blazing with fury. He had no understanding of the warmth that had just blossomed between his daughter and this man, and the very thought of compassion infuriated him. Lily's heart raced, panic seizing her. She had faced so much in her short life, but the thought of losing this fleeting moment of kindness felt insurmountable. Would this man see the truth of her situation, or would he be driven away by her father's cruelty? The silence rang loudly between them, overshadowed by her mounting fear. Mr. Thompson's brow furrowed as he took a step back, uncertainty flashing across his face. Would he stand up to this man, this monster who had inflicted so much pain on Lily, or would he retreat into the safety of his wealthy world? In that moment, the line had been drawn, and the battle for Lily's future loomed dangerously close. The glimmer of hope she held onto hung precariously in the balance, waiting to see if someone would finally choose to fight for her. Mr. Thompson stood there, his heart racing, paralyzed by an urgent compulsion. The world around him melted away, leaving only Lily's desperate eyes filled with an unspoken plea. As he stared, memories from his own childhood resurfaced, unbidden but vivid. He recalled a moment, one that had been buried beneath layers of time and success. It was a rainy afternoon, the kind that soaked through to the skin, making everything seem dreary and gray. He was a small boy then, maybe 7 years old, huddled in a corner of the schoolyard, shunned by his peers. They had laughed at him, called him names because his clothes were worn and his shoes were scuffed. He remembered the sting of their words, the sharpness of their laughter echoing in his ears. In that moment, he had felt utterly alone, invisible to the world. But unlike Lily, he had a home to return to. He had parents who, despite their flaws, provided him with food and shelter, even if it was often overshadowed by their own struggles. He had been lucky. Yet that day had marked him. He had vowed to himself that he would never let anyone feel the way he had felt. The isolation, the helplessness. It had fueled his ambition, pushing him into the path of success. He had fought against the currents of circumstance, navigating the treacherous waters of life. And now he stood as a respected lawyer. But at what cost? With every win, every case he took, had he forgotten those like Lily? Had he grown too comfortable in his achievement, too detached from the struggles of the forgotten? As quickly as these thoughts raced, a wave of determination surged through him. He was not just an observer in this moment, he had the power to make a difference. The decision crystallized in his mind. He would not walk away. He could offer her something more than pity. He could offer her a lifeline. "Hey!" he called out, his voice breaking the silence that had enveloped them. The world snapped back into focus, the noise of the street returning, but it felt distant, muffled, as if everything had faded except for Lily's fragile figure. She looked up, startled, her wide eyes searching his face for understanding. "Please, wait right there," he said, urging her not to move as he stepped forward, a wave of urgency propelling him to act. He quickly glanced around, assessing the scene, aware of the judgmental eyes of passers-by, who might deem his intervention unnecessary or foolish. But the thought of ignoring her, of walking away, felt unbearable. Mr. Thompson dug into his pocket, pulling out his wallet with shaking hands. As he fished out a crisp bill, he felt the weight of the moment. This act was more than just a monetary exchange. It was a connection, a statement that he saw her, that she mattered. "Here," he said, kneeling down to meet her gaze, holding out the money. "Take this. It's not much, but it should help you get something to drink and eat." His words were heartfelt, but they landed in the silence between them, heavy with unspoken truths. Lily's eyes flickered with surprise. She hesitated, glancing at the bill, then back at him, confusion clouding her features. In that instant, Mr. Thompson realized he had to do more than just offer money. He had to show her that he truly cared, that she was not just another face in the crowd. "Can you understand me?" he asked gently, his tone softening. He pointed to his mouth, then gestured towards her, his eyebrows furrowing as he tried to convey his sincerity. "You're not alone. I want to help." Her eyes brimmed with unshed tears, and he could see the flicker of hope igniting within her. She reached out tentatively, her fingers brushing against the bill before she pulled her hand back, as if she feared it would vanish. It was a small movement, yet it spoke volumes. "Lily," he said, signaling to her name as he pointed to himself and then to her, hoping to establish a connection beyond words. "I'm Mr. Thompson. Can I help you find a place to eat? A safe place?" In that moment, she nodded ever so slightly, a gesture so fragile yet full of meaning. Mr. Thompson felt a pang of warmth spread through his chest. It was a beginning, a small spark that could blossom into something more significant. He stood up, glancing around for any nearby cafes or shops that might offer refuge from the harshness of the street. "Come with me," he urged, extending his hand. "I promise you won't regret it." "Yes." Lily hesitated for only a second before placing her hand in his. The touch was delicate, yet it ignited a fierce, protective instinct in him. He could feel the weight of her uncertainty, the years of neglect pressing down on her shoulders, but Mr. Thompson was resolute. He would not let her slip away. As they walked, he sensed the curious glances of onlookers, some expressing pity while others regarded him with disdain, questioning why a man of his status would be entangled with a girl on the street. But he brushed off their judgment, focusing instead on the warmth of Lily's hand in his, a silent bond forming between them. They approached a small cafe nestled between larger buildings, the kind of place that seemed welcoming and bright, a stark contrast to the shadows Lily had known for too long. Mr. Thompson opened the door, gesturing for her to enter first. The cool air washed over them, a welcome relief from the oppressive heat outside. Inside, the smell of fresh pastries and brewed coffee enveloped them, a stark reminder of the simple pleasures that life could offer. Lily's eyes widened, taking in the vibrant surroundings as if she had stepped into another world. "Choose anything you want," he encouraged, watching as she hesitated, glancing at the menu board. The options seemed overwhelming, and for a moment she faltered, caught between desire and disbelief. "Go on, it's okay," he reassured her, stepping closer. "You deserve this, whatever you want." Finally, she pointed to a cool glass of water, her lips curling into a shy smile as she imagined the sweet relief it would bring. Mr. Thompson turned to the barista, placing the order. As she filled the glass, he caught Lily's eye, and in that moment, he realized that this was not just about water or food. It was about restoring dignity. As they waited, the tension in the air shifted, an unspoken promise forming between them. Lily was more than a girl begging on the street. She was a young woman who had endured too much and deserved a second chance. Mr. Thompson felt that pang of responsibility surge within him. He was determined to help her reclaim her voice, to shatter the chains that had bound her for so long. But just as he turned to tell her about his plans to find her a place to stay, a familiar voice sliced through the air, sending a chill down his spine. "Mr. Thompson!" It was Jack, his colleague, striding in with a swagger that belied the concern etched across his face. "What are you doing here?" The moment felt precarious, the weight of judgment hanging heavily in the air. Lily's eyes darted between them, confusion and fear flashing across her features. Mr. Thompson's heart sank, knowing that the encounter could unravel everything he had just begun to build with her. He began, but the words caught in his throat as Jack's gaze landed on Lily, his expression shifting from curiosity to something darker. "Is this some kind of charity case?" Jack sneered, his tone laced with disdain. "You know you can't save everyone, right?" Mr. Thompson felt the heat rise to his cheeks. He had to protect her, to defend this precious moment. But as he looked at Lily, he saw the flicker of fear return to her eyes, the fragile hope he had ignited now threatened by the looming shadow of judgment. "Lily, let's go," he said quickly, trying to shield her from Jack's scrutiny. But before they could move, Jack stepped closer, an imperious smirk on his face. "Really, Thompson? You're throwing away your reputation just for this?" In that instant, as the past threatened to collide with the present, Mr. Thompson felt an urgent need to protect Lily, not just from Jack, but from the world that had abandoned her. The stakes had never felt higher, and he knew that this was just the beginning of a fight he hadn't anticipated but was now ready to face. The air crackled with tension, and as the weight of the moment settled in, Mr. Thompson steeled himself for the battle ahead. He would not let fear dictate his actions. He would stand up for Lily, no matter the cost. The path ahead was uncertain, but he felt a fierce determination settle in his heart. He had found his purpose, and he would not let her down. Mr. Thompson watched as Lily's fingers lingered above the crumpled bill. The moment stretched taut between them, charged with unspoken hopes and fears. For her, this was not merely a financial transaction. It was an invitation into a world that had long been denied to her, a world filled with kindness, compassion, and the possibility of safety. As he knelt there, their eyes locked in a fragile connection, he felt a surge of urgency. He had to know more about her, to understand the depths of her despair. "Lily," he repeated softly, hoping to anchor her in the reality of this moment. He pointed to himself again, indicating he was here, not just as a passerby, but as someone who wanted to help. "Can you tell me what you need? Water? Food?" He gestured toward the nearby shop, its bright lights contrasting sharply with the dimness of her eyes. Lily's brow furrowed as she hesitated, glancing toward the shop and then back at him. Mr. Thompson recognized that she was not just hungry for food, but for something far deeper. She craved acknowledgement, a validation of her existence, the simple understanding that someone truly cared. Her fingers trembled slightly, and he could see the flicker of skepticism in her expression, the kind of skepticism born from years of neglect and abuse. "Let's go get some water," he said, his voice steady yet gentle. He extended his hand toward her, a gesture of trust and safety. "You can come with me. I promise you'll be safe." For a fleeting moment, hope blossomed in her eyes, but it was quickly shadowed by a deep-seated fear. What if this was just another trick? What if, like others before him, he would betray her trust? Thompson saw the turmoil in her expression and felt his heart ache for her. He realized that her past had painted a picture of betrayal. She had learned to guard herself against the kindness of strangers. "Lily, I know it's hard to trust," he said, his voice low and soothing. "But I'm not here to hurt you. I want to help. No one deserves to be alone like this." He gestured to the street, filled with hurried lives, indifferent to her suffering. "You deserve better than this." After what felt like an eternity, she lifted her hand cautiously, the delicate fingers brushing against his palm. The warmth of her skin sent a shiver down his spine. Here was a girl who had been exposed to the harshness of life, yet she still dared to reach out. It was a small victory, but a significant one. As they made their way to the shop, Mr. Thompson couldn't help but observe her closely. She moved with a hesitance that spoke volumes of her past. Each step seemed heavy with the weight of her experiences, the burden of neglect and abuse evident in the way she kept her gaze low, avoiding eye contact with the world around her. He guided her gently, navigating through the throng of people, each face a blur of indifference. It was as if they were in a different realm, a universe where kindness was a rare commodity. Inside the shop, the cool air enveloped them, a sharp contrast to the oppressive heat outside. Mr. Thompson guided her toward the beverage section, his heart racing with each moment. He wanted to choose something that would bring her joy, something that could momentarily lift her spirit. "What do you like?" he asked, glancing at her with genuine curiosity. "Do you prefer juice, or maybe a soda?" Lily's eyes widened slightly at the question. No one had asked her what she wanted in a long time. Her father's neglect had stripped her of the right to choose. It was a foreign concept to her, and for a moment she stood frozen, unable to answer. He didn't rush her. Instead, he waited patiently, allowing her to process the idea of choice, of autonomy. Finally, she pointed to a bright blue bottle of soda, her fingers trembling as she gestured. A smile broke across Mr. Thompson's face, illuminating the dimness of the shop. "Perfect choice. Let's get that," he said, grabbing the bottle and walking to the counter, where the cashier greeted them with a nod. As he paid for the drink, he stole a glance at Lily, who stood a few paces behind him, her eyes darting around the store, absorbing the sights and sounds as if they were pieces of a puzzle she had been missing. This was her first taste of freedom, the first time someone recognized her humanity, and it filled him with a sense of urgency to do more. With the soda in hand, he turned back to her. "Let's find a place to sit, okay?" he suggested, leading her outside where the noise of the city buzzed around them. They found a small bench under a tree, its shade offering a moment of respite from the sun's relentless rays. As she unscrewed the cap of the soda, the fizz echoed in the stillness, a sound so simple yet so profound. She lifted the bottle to her lips, taking a tentative sip. The sweetness danced on her tongue, and for the first time in a long while, a smile crept onto her face, fragile yet radiant. Mr. Thompson felt his heart swell at the sight, and he knew he had to know more about her story. "Lily," he began again, carefully choosing his words, "can you tell me about your home? Where do you live?" Her expression shifted, the light in her eyes dimming as shadows of the past clouded her features. He could see the struggle within her, the internal fight between wanting to share and the fear of reliving her painful reality. I just live with my dad," she managed to whisper, her voice barely audible. Mr. Thompson leaned in closer, his heart heavy with concern. "Does he take care of you? Do you feel safe?" The questions tumbled out, each one probing deeper into the layers of her suffering. Lily hesitated, her fingers fidgeting with the bottle as she looked down. He doesn't always. Sometimes he gets angry." Her words tumbled out, each syllable coated in a fear that clung to her like a second skin. I don't know if I'm safe." The implication hung heavily in the air, and Mr. Thompson's chest tightened with a protective instinct. Anger flared within him at the thought of anyone harming her, mistreating such a gentle soul. "Lily, you deserve to be safe. You deserve to be happy. No one should ever make you feel scared. You're worth so much more than that." Her eyes flickered up to meet his, and for the first time, he saw the vulnerability in her gaze, the flicker of hope battling against the darkness that had surrounded her for so long. "I don't know," she whispered, her voice trembling. "I don't know how to be safe." He took a deep breath, the weight of his resolve crystallizing in that moment. "Then let me help you. I can help you find a place where you can be safe, where you can start again. You don't have to go back there." The urgency in his voice was palpable, a promise that he would not abandon her. As Lily absorbed his words, her brow furrowed, and he could see that a flicker of doubt still lingered. "But what if he finds me?" she asked, her voice shaking. "What if he comes looking?" "Then we'll make sure he can't," Mr. Thompson replied firmly. "I'll do everything in my power to protect you. You are not alone in this anymore." His heart raced with the determination to rescue her from a life of torment. At that moment, a commotion erupted at the entrance of the shop where they had just been. Mr. Thompson turned instinctively, his heart sinking as the familiar figure of her father stormed inside, his face twisted in anger. The air shifted, tension crackling like electricity as the reality of their situation crashed over him like a wave. "Lily!" her father shouted, his voice cutting through the air like a knife. "Get over here!" Mr. Thompson felt his blood run cold, and a surge of adrenaline coursed through him. He turned back to Lily, whose face had gone pale, fear etched deep into her features. "Stay close to me," he instructed, positioning himself protectively in front of her. The confrontation was imminent, but in that moment he resolved to stand his ground. He had to protect her, to shield her from the very source of her pain. The weight of his promise hung heavily in the air. Would he be able to keep it? Would he be able to save her from the darkness that threatened to consume her? Everything was about to change, and for better or for worse, he was ready to face whatever came next. The cool air of the shop enveloped them as Mr. Thompson approached the counter, the bright lights overhead illuminating the desperation etched into Lily's features. He brought the soda to the cashier, but his mind was racing. He couldn't shake the urgency to confront Lily's father. Something deep within him stirred. He could not let her return to that oppressive environment without a fight. "Wait here for just a moment," he whispered to her, his voice barely above a breath. He didn't want to scare her with the gravity of the confrontation he was about to initiate, but the fire ignited in his chest demanded action. Stepping outside, he caught sight of the man who had cast such a shadow over Lily's life. Lily's father stood a few paces away, his posture rigid, emanating an air of authority that felt suffocating. He was on the phone, his voice laced with arrogance, as he spoke dismissively about an impending business deal. Mr. Thompson's heart raced. He could feel the adrenaline coursing through him, propelling him forward. "Excuse me," Mr. Thompson called out, his voice cutting through the din of the bustling street. The man turned, his expression shifting from annoyance to surprise. "I need to speak with you." "Who the hell are you?" Lily's father shot back, his tone dripping with disdain. "I'm someone who cares about your daughter," Mr. Thompson asserted, stepping closer, aware that every eye in the vicinity was now on them. "I just spent some time with her, and I can't let you take her back without saying something." Lily's father scoffed, his lip curling in a sneer. "Take her back? You're making a mistake, friend. She's my daughter. She doesn't belong to you." Mr. Thompson saw the flicker of uncertainty in the man's eyes, a crack in the facade of control he maintained. "That's exactly the point. She deserves more than what you're giving her. She deserves kindness, not neglect." Lily's father leaned in, his voice dropping dangerously low. "You don't know anything about my family. You don't know what I've done for her." "Done for her?" Mr. Thompson echoed incredulously. "You mean the neglect? The abuse? You've kept her in the shadows, and she's suffering because of you. You have to let her go." A tense silence enveloped them, the world around them fading away until it was just the two men locked in a battle of wills. Mr. Thompson could sense Lily's presence just inside the shop, her anxious energy radiating toward him, fueling his determination. He glanced back at her, and their eyes met. There was a hint of hope mingled with fear, and in that brief moment he understood the stakes of this confrontation. Lily's father straightened, his expression hardening. "You think you can just waltz in and dictate my parenting? You're a nobody, a passing stranger. You have no right." "I may be a stranger, but that doesn't mean I won't stand up for her," Mr. Thompson replied, his voice steady despite the rising tension. "Lily is not a possession. She's a person. It's time you recognize that." The older man's eyes glinted with malice as he took a step closer, invading Mr. Thompson's space. "You think you can play the hero? You have no idea what you're dealing with?" "Then show me," Mr. Thompson challenged, the words spilling from his lips before he could filter them. "Show me that you care. Or is it simply easier to hide behind your power?" With that, he could see the rage bubbling beneath the surface of Lily's father. The man's face contorted, a storm of emotions flashing across it, anger, fear, and a sickening realization that someone was not afraid to challenge him. From the corner of his eye, Mr. Thompson noticed a few passers-by slowing down, their curiosity piqued by the escalating situation. The murmurs of "what's happening" echoed around him as if the world was leaning in to witness the confrontation. For Lily, this was her moment, her opportunity to break free from the chains that had bound her for so long. "Lily deserves a chance to thrive," Mr. Thompson continued, his voice unwavering. "You can't keep her in your twisted world any longer. Let her go." Lily's father looked back toward the shop, and for a split second Mr. Thompson saw doubt flicker across his face. "This is ridiculous. You're just a lawyer. What do you know?" "Enough to know that she's not thriving under your roof," Mr. Thompson pressed on, feeling the tide shift just slightly in his favor. "You may have power, but you don't have the love and support she needs." Lily's father laughed, but it was a hollow sound, devoid of any real humor. Love? Support? You don't know the first thing about being a parent. You think you have the right to come here and disrupt my life? I think I have every right to protect her, Mr. Thompson shot back, his heart pounding in his chest. You may have blood ties, but that doesn't give you the right to harm her. In that moment, the air crackled with tension, and Mr. Thompson could feel the stakes rising. The world had narrowed down to this confrontation, and he knew that whatever happened next would shape Lily's fate. Just then he caught Lily's eye again, and in that instant he saw something shift within her. It was as if a light had flickered on, an awakening of sorts. She had been watching, absorbing every word, every challenge. She was beginning to understand that she had a voice, that her story was not solely defined by her father's oppressive grip. Please, Mr. Thompson urged, his voice softening as he turned back to her father. I'm not your enemy. I'm here to help. Let Lily choose what she wants for her life. A moment of silence enveloped them, the possibility of change hanging in the air. But just as it seemed like the tension might break, Lily's father took a step back, his expression darkening. You have no idea who you're messing with. With those final words, he turned on his heel and stalked away, leaving Mr. Thompson standing there, heart racing, unsure of what would happen next. The silence felt deafening, the air heavy with unresolved tension. Lily, he called out gently as he turned back to the shop, half expecting to see her retreating into the shadows. But instead she stood frozen, her expression a mixture of fear and determination. In that moment, as their eyes met again, Mr. Thompson realized that the battle had only just begun. He had planted a seed of hope in her, but the journey ahead was still fraught with challenges. He took a deep breath, steeling himself for whatever lay ahead, knowing that he had to keep fighting for her freedom, and for her future. As he stepped back into the shop, Lily moved toward him, her eyes shining with an emotion he couldn't quite place. Was it gratitude? Fear. The uncertainty loomed thick in the air as they faced the unknown together, a fragile alliance forged in the midst of chaos. And just as they began to move forward, the doors of the shop swung open behind them, a shadow emerging that threatened to unravel everything they had just built. The confrontation was far from over. It was only the beginning. The air felt charged as Mr. Thompson stood his ground, eyes locked with Lily's father, who was now visibly rattled. You don't get to dictate her life anymore, he declared, the weight of conviction pouring from his voice. The crowd around them had swelled, curious onlookers forming a semicircle, their murmurs creating a low hum that underscored the tension of the moment. He could feel the warmth of their collective gaze, a silent support that urged him on. Lily's not a toy for you to manipulate, he pressed on, his heart racing with each word. She deserves a chance to be loved, to thrive. You cannot keep her in your shadow any longer. The older man's eyes narrowed, his disdain simmering just beneath the surface. You think you're some kind of hero? You don't know what it's like to raise a child like her. Why? His voice dripped with contempt, but Mr. Thompson could see the cracks beginning to form. No, I don't know, Mr. Thompson replied, matching the intensity of the man's glare. But I can see the damage you've done. I can see her fear, her pain. It's time for Lily to have a life filled with light, not darkness. Just then, he caught a glimpse of Lily through the shop's glass window, her small frame shivering slightly, her anxious fingers ringing together. A wave of determination surged within him. Lily, come here, he called out, his voice cutting through the tension like a lifeline. The girl hesitated, her eyes darting between her father and Mr. Thompson, but she took a tentative step forward, then another until she was at his side. He reached down, gently taking her hand, feeling the frailness of her grip like a fragile bird ready to take flight. Let's go, he said softly, but the warmth of reassurance in his tone contrasted sharply with the chilling look that now overshadowed them. Where do you think you're taking her? Lily's father barked, his voice a thunderclap that reverberated through the air. You have no right to take her anywhere. Mr. Thompson straightened, holding his ground. I'm taking her to a place where she can be safe, a place where she can actually live. He felt the steady pulse of resolve in his veins, the knowledge that he could not back down. Lily glanced up at him, her eyes wide with a mixture of fear and hope. Safe? She mouthed, her silent question hanging in the air like a fragile promise. Yes, Lily, he affirmed, his voice steady. You deserve safe. You deserve to be happy. He tightened his grip on her hand, a simple gesture meant to convey his unwavering support. She nodded slightly, as if the weight of his words began to settle in her heart. But just as they turned to leave, Lily's father stepped forward, blocking their path. You think you can just waltz in and take my daughter? His face was a mask of fury, the kind that could scorch the very air around them. Mr. Thompson felt a ripple of fear, but he refused to let it take hold. Lily is not yours to control. She's a person, not a possession, he countered, feeling the eyes of the crowd burning into the back of his neck. If you truly cared for her, you would let her go. For a moment, silence engulfed them, thick and weighted as if the world held its breath. Mr. Thompson's heart pounded in his chest, each beat a reminder of the stakes, of the fragile life of the girl standing beside him, who had known nothing but hardship and heartache. Suddenly, Lily's father's expression twisted into a sneer, masking the fear that momentarily flickered in his eyes. "You don't know me. You don't know what I've done for her," he hissed through gritted teeth, the venom in his tone palpable. "Then prove it," Mr. Thompson challenged, stepping closer, unafraid. "Prove it by letting her go. Show her that you love her by giving her the freedom to choose her own path." The tension snapped like a taut string, and in that moment, something shifted. Lily's father faltered, uncertainty creeping into his posture. Mr. Thompson seized the opportunity. "This is your chance to do right by her. Let her be free." With a dark glare, the man finally stepped aside, his face contorting with rage and disbelief. "You'll regret this," he spat, but the words lacked their former strength. "Not as much as you will?" Mr. Thompson retorted, ushering Lily forward, their hands still intertwined. They moved past the man, who stood there like a statue, frozen in disbelief, as the crowd murmured their agreement. "Let's go," Mr. Thompson urged Lily gently, leading her away from the suffocating presence of her father. They stepped onto the street, where the noise of the world rushed back in, a stark contrast to the oppressive silence that had just enveloped them. As they walked, Lily's grip tightened around his hand, a silent acknowledgement of her trust. The world seemed to stretch out before them, bright and full of possibilities. Mr. Thompson could feel the weight of her past still clinging to her, heavy like a shroud, but he was determined to lift it. "Where are we going?" Lily signed, her face a mix of apprehension and curiosity. "To my home," he replied, a smile breaking through the tension of the moment. "It's a nice place. You'll have your own room. And food. Real food. Not scraps." Her eyes widened, a spark of hope igniting within them. "Food?" The word was a fragile whisper, yet it carried the weight of 1,000 unfulfilled dreams. "Yes, Lily, food. And safety," he promised, glancing at her to gauge her reaction. The flicker of optimism was there, but it was fragile, like a candle threatened by a gust of wind. As they walked, Mr. Thompson couldn't shake the feeling that they were not entirely free yet. The shadow of Lily's father loomed large in the distance, a dark figure that might not let go easily. He knew he had to act fast. This was merely the beginning of their struggle. Arriving at his home, the contrasts hit them like a wave. The manicured lawn, the warm glow from the windows, the scent of freshly baked bread wafting through the air. It was a world apart from the darkness Lily had just escaped. "Welcome to your new home," he said, opening the door and stepping aside to let her enter first. She hesitated, her breath hitching as she took in the space that was overflowing with warmth and light. Could this really be for her? "Is this real?" she signed, her eyes wide, searching his for answers. "Yes," he assured her, stepping in behind her. "It's real, and it's yours. You're safe here." But as they crossed the threshold, the tension of the past lingered, an unwelcome specter that refused to be left behind. The door closed with a soft click, but in the silence that followed, the creeping doubt invaded their sanctuary. Just then, a sudden knock echoed through the house, sharp and demanding. Mr. Thompson's heart sank. He turned to Lily, whose expression transformed from cautious hope to sheer panic. "Who could that be?" She signed, her hands trembling. "I don't know," he replied, a knot forming in his stomach. "But we'll face it together." As the knock sounded again, louder this time, an overwhelming sense of dread washed over him. The past wasn't finished with them yet. He could feel it in his bones. "Stay behind me," he instructed firmly, stepping toward the door as the ominous feeling settled like a stone in his chest. He opened the door and a chilling sight met his eyes, a face that sent shivers down his spine. Lily's father, fury etched across his features, a storm brewing in his eyes. "Where is she?" he demanded, his voice a low growl echoing with threats unsaid. And in that moment, the fragile peace they had just begun to build shattered, leaving the air thick with tension and unspoken fears. The scent of lavender and fresh linen enveloped Lily like a warm embrace, a stark contrast to the grimy streets she had known for so long. For the first time in years, she stood before a bathroom mirror. The reflection staring back at her was a stranger, yet familiar. The water had washed away the layers of dirt and despair, revealing a girl with wide, hopeful eyes and a heart that dared to dream again. Mr. Thompson had insisted on this moment of tenderness that felt almost surreal. "Look at you," he said, his voice warm and encouraging as he stood in the doorway, giving her the privacy she so desperately craved. "You're beautiful, Lily." His words hung in the air, sweet and heavy like an exquisite perfume. She felt the corners of her mouth twitch upwards, a smile trying to break free, yet doubt clouded her heart. Did she really deserve this kindness? As she ran her fingers over the clean fabric of the dress Mr. Thompson had provided, a wave of disbelief washed over her. How could this man, a figure of wealth and power, see anything worthwhile in her? Wasn't she just a beggar, a girl lost in a world that had turned its back on her? She glanced at the dress, a soft pink with delicate lace at the sleeves, and felt a pang of fear. The vibrant color felt foreign, too bright against her past of muted grays and browns. "Come on, Lily, you can do this," Mr. Thompson encouraged, a gentle nudge that pulled her from her thoughts. He stepped closer, his kind eyes searching hers for reassurance. "You're ready to go downstairs. I want you to meet my daughter." His daughter. The very thought sent a shudder of anxiety through her. Would she be like him, kind and generous? Or would she reflect the harshness of the world that had left Lily so battered? What if she doesn't like me? The words escaped her lips before she could stop them, a whisper laced with vulnerability. "Why wouldn't she?" Mr. Thompson asked, tilting his head slightly, his brow furrowing with concern. "You're special, Lily. You've been through so much, and that makes you strong. Anyone would be lucky to know you." His belief in her sparked something deep within, a flicker of light igniting in the shadows of her self-doubt. But just as quickly, the flame threatened to be snuffed out. "You don't know what I've done, what I am," she thought, the weight of her past pressing heavily on her chest. Suddenly, the air shifted, as if a storm was brewing just beyond the safety of the walls. "Lily," he said, breaking the silence, "you are not defined by your past. You're here now, and this is a new beginning." With a deep breath, she nodded, the resolve settling into her bones. She stepped out of the bathroom, her heart racing with anticipation and fear. The lavish hallway of the Thompson home stretched before her, adorned with elegant artwork and rich mahogany furniture that whispered of wealth and privilege. It was a world so different from her own, yet it was also intoxicating in its beauty. As they descended the staircase, she felt Mr. Thompson's reassuring presence beside her, his hand resting gently on the small of her back. The soft chatter of voices floated up to greet them as they reached the bottom step. It was a warm and inviting sound, a stark contrast to the harshness of the streets. "Everyone, this is Lily," Mr. Thompson announced, his voice filled with pride. The room fell silent, and Lily felt 1,000 eyes upon her, each gaze filled with curiosity and expectation. She could feel her heart thumping in her chest, a drumbeat of uncertainty. A girl, perhaps a year or two older than Lily, stepped forward, her bright smile radiating kindness. "Hi, Lily. I'm Emma, Dad's daughter. I've been waiting to meet you." Lily's cheeks flushed with warmth at the girl's enthusiasm. "Hi," she replied, her voice barely a whisper. But the kindness in Emma's eyes felt like a safety net, catching her from falling back into despair. "Want to see my art studio?" Emma offered, her excitement infectious. "I can show you all my paintings, and Dad promised we could bake cookies later." The thought of cookies brought a flutter of joy to Lily's heart, a reminder of warm, sweet moments that she had long forgotten. "I'd like that," she managed to say, her voice gaining strength. As Emma led her away, Lily felt the weight of Mr. Thompson's gaze on her, a silent affirmation that she was safe, that she was no longer alone. Yet, in the back of her mind, a nagging doubt began to creep in. What would her father do? Would he come looking for her? "Lily," Mr. Thompson's voice broke through her spiraling thoughts. "I need to talk to you for a moment." She turned and saw the seriousness in his expression, the way his brow furrowed with concern. "What is it?" she asked, her stomach tightening. "I just wanted to remind you that you are safe here. You can trust us," he said, his voice low and steady. "But I've heard some unsettling things about your father. He's not going to let you go easily." A chill ran down her spine at the mention of him. The man who had controlled her life twisted it into something unrecognizable. "What do you mean?" she asked, her heart pounding as the memories of his threats flooded back. "Just be cautious." "Lily," Mr. Thompson urged, "I want you to feel at home here, but I need you to know that your father may try to manipulate things. Don't let him get into your head." Lily's heart sank, the warmth of the moment dimming as fear seeped back in. "I won't let him," she promised, though uncertainty gnawed at her resolve. "Good," he said, offering a reassuring smile. "Just remember, I'm here for you. You're not alone." As she nodded, the weight of his words settled within her, mingling with the fear of the shadows lurking just outside her new reality. Would she truly find the safety she had longed for? Or would her father's influence be an ever-present darkness threatening to pull her back into despair? With a deep breath, she steeled herself for what lay ahead. Lily would not let the past define her. She would fight for the light she had just begun to glimpse. And as she stepped further into the warmth of this new world, she quietly vowed to embrace each moment, no matter how fragile it felt. But as the laughter of Emma and the others filled the air, a distant echo of her father's threats whispered in her mind, planting seeds of doubt that threatened to unravel the newfound hope woven into her heart. The soft hum of conversation filled the air as Lily stood in the grand living room, her heart pounding in rhythm with the pulse of uncertainty. Mr. Thompson's presence beside her radiated warmth, but the weight of her father's shadow loomed larger than ever. Just then, she caught sight of her father, standing in the doorway, an imposing figure that seemed to suck the brightness from the room. His eyes were cold, a stark contrast to the warmth surrounding her, and she felt a chill creep down her spine. "Lily!" he called out, and the sound was like ice breaking. "I need to talk to you." The authoritative tone in his voice sent a wave of dread washing over her. She instinctively stepped closer to Mr. Thompson, seeking solace in his protective aura. "Lily, don't go," Mr. Thompson said firmly, sensing her hesitation. "You don't have to listen to him." But her heart twisted painfully at the thought of defying him. The man who had just shown her a glimpse of kindness she thought was lost forever. "Why don't you come home?" her father continued, his voice feigning concern, yet laced with an undercurrent of manipulation. "You don't belong here among these people." He gestured dismissively toward the room, his disdain palpable. "They're just pretending to care. You know where you truly belong." The accusation hung in the air, an arrow aimed directly at her heart. His words echoed the thoughts that had plagued her for years, a relentless whisper that she was unworthy of love and kindness. But today felt different. She could feel the warmth of Mr. Thompson beside her, urging her to stand tall. "No," Lily found her voice, trembling but resolute. "I don't want to go back. I don't want to be your puppet anymore." The defiance surprised her, her heart racing as she spoke the words she had held back for so long. Her father's expression shifted, a flicker of rage crossing his face before he masked it with a veneer of calm. "You think you can survive without me? You're just a girl. You don't know how the world works." "I know enough," she countered, her voice growing stronger with each word. "I know that you've lied to me, manipulated me, and made me feel like I'm nothing. But I am not nothing." The fire in her words ignited a spark of something she hadn't felt in years, a sense of agency. Mr. Thompson's gaze shifted between the two, the tension thick enough to slice through. "You will not speak to her that way?" he interjected, his voice firm and unwavering. "Lily deserves respect and a chance to be who she truly is." Lily glanced at Mr. Thompson, the sincerity in his eyes giving her strength. This was the man who had fought for her, who had seen her when others wouldn't. The realization that someone believed in her, truly believed in her, was a balm to her battered spirit. Her father scoffed, the anger bubbling beneath the surface. "And what do you know about her? You think you can save her? You think you're some kind of hero?" His voice dripped with mockery. "You have no idea what she's like. She's unstable, a charity case." Lily felt the sting of his words, but instead of crumbling, she resisted the urge to retreat. "You don't get to define me anymore," she declared, the words spilling out like a dam breaking. "I'm not your charity case. I'm Lily, and I have a life beyond your control." Her father's face contorted with disbelief and anger as he struggled to regain control of the situation. "You'll regret this, Lily," he warned, his voice low and threatening. "You'll see how the world really is, and you'll come crawling back." "Is that a threat?" Mr. Thompson stepped forward, his protective stance a bulwark against the oppressive weight of her father's looming presence. "You can't intimidate her anymore." Lily's heart raced as she watched the confrontation unfold. For too long, she had been at the mercy of her father's whims, but now she felt the grip of her past loosening, even if just a little. The truth she had buried was clawing its way to the surface, and she could finally breathe. "Lily?" her father said, trying a softer approach. "You're confused. You need help, and I'm the only one who can give it to you." "No," she replied, her voice steady. "You're the one who needs help. You've caused me so much pain, and I won't let you manipulate me anymore." The room fell silent, the tension palpable, as her father's facade cracked slightly, revealing the fear and anger beneath. "You're making a mistake," he hissed, his voice barely above a whisper, yet filled with venom. "I'm making the right choice," she asserted, feeling a wave of empowerment wash over her. "It's your turn to face the truth, not mine." Mr. Thompson nodded, pride illuminating his features as he placed a reassuring hand on her shoulder. "You're stronger than you know, Lily, and I will stand by you." But as the words left his lips, a shadow flickered at the edges of Lily's newfound courage. Her father's influence loomed over her like a dark cloud, a reminder that this battle was far from over. The thought of his relentless pursuit, of his gaslighting tactics, sent a shiver down her spine. "Lily, don't think for one moment that this is over," her father warned, his eyes narrowing. "I won't let you walk away from me." The gravity of his threat sank in, a chilling realization that her father would not give up easily. But for the first time, she felt a glimmer of hope, a sense that she wasn't alone anymore. Mr. Thompson straightened, his expression resolute. "You need to leave," he said firmly, directing his words at Lily's father. "You have no power here." "Just wait," her father spat, his voice low and menacing, before storming out of the room, leaving behind a silence that felt heavy and suffocating. Lily drew in a shaky breath, the adrenaline still coursing through her veins. She turned to Mr. Thompson, her heart racing with uncertainty. What if he comes back? "He won't," Mr. Thompson reassured her, his voice steady. "I won't let him harm you, Lily. You're safe here." But even as he spoke, doubts began to creep into her mind. The threat of her father's influence lingered like a dark cloud, and she knew that this was just the beginning of her fight for freedom. As she looked into Mr. Thompson's eyes, she felt the weight of her past still pressing against her heart. But now, with the kindness he had shown her, there was a flicker of hope that perhaps she could carve out a new life, a life where she was free to be herself. Yet the shadows of her father's manipulation loomed large, and the journey ahead promised to be fraught with challenges. Lily took a deep breath, the resolve settling into her bones, ready to face whatever came next. The battle for her truth had just begun, and she was determined to win. The tension in the room was palpable, an electric charge that crackled between Lily, her father, and Mr. Thompson. Every heartbeat felt like a drum echoing the gravity of the moment. Her father's cold gaze bore into her, a predatory look that sent shivers down her spine. "You're making a mistake, Lily," he warned, his voice laced with a venomous sweetness that made her stomach churn. "You think you can just walk away from me? You think these people care about you?" The warmth that Mr. Thompson radiated stood in stark contrast to the icy grip of her father's words. "She has every right to choose her own path," he asserted, his tone unwavering, a shield against the darkness that threatened to engulf them. "You've held her back for far too long." Lily felt a rush of gratitude for the man standing beside her. "You don't know anything about me," she said, turning her attention back to her father, the tremor in her voice replaced by a newfound strength. "You don't know that I'm not afraid anymore." Her father's face twisted in disbelief, as if her words were an affront to his very existence. "You think you're brave? You're just a foolish girl, thinking you can stand alone. You'll come to regret this." The air thickened with dread, but Lily squared her shoulders, refusing to let his threats penetrate her resolve. "You've underestimated me for too long. I know who I am now, and I won't let you control me anymore." Mr. Thompson placed a reassuring hand on her shoulder, grounding her. "You're not alone, Lily. You have people who care about you, who want to see you thrive." His voice, rich with sincerity, ignited a fire within her. "People like you?" Her father scoffed, his laughter hollow and cruel. "You think he's your savior? He's just a man playing the hero. You'll see the truth soon enough." But Lily shook her head, her resolve hardening. "No, I won't. I refuse to go back to being your puppet, to living in fear of your whims." The shadows in her father's eyes darkened, an ominous storm brewing. "You think you can escape me? I'll make sure you regret this decision." His words dripped with menace, but they only fueled her determination. "Enough!" Mr. Thompson's voice rang out, cutting through the tension like a knife. He stepped forward, positioning himself protectively in front of Lily. "You will not threaten her. She has every right to choose her own life, free from your manipulation." The confrontation escalated, a battle of wills that felt as ancient as time itself. Lily's heart raced as she witnessed the clash of power dynamics, her father's desperate attempts to reassert control against Mr. Thompson's unwavering support. "I'll take this to court," her father spat, his eyes narrowing into slits. "You think you can keep her from me? I'll expose your so-called kindness for what it really is." Lily's breath hitched at the threat, the weight of her father's words crashing over her like a tidal wave. "You can't do that," she whispered, fear creeping into her voice. "Watch me," he sneered, reveling in her moment of vulnerability. "I'll show everyone what a liar you are, what a burden you've always been." But before she could spiral into despair, Mr. Thompson turned to her, his expression fierce and protective. "Lily, listen to me. You are not a burden. You are a bright light, deserving of love and respect. Don't let him take that away from you." The sincerity in his eyes broke through the fog of fear clouding her mind. "You are not defined by your past or by him," he continued, his voice steady. "You have the power to shape your own future." Lily took a deep breath, grounding herself in his unwavering belief. "I am Lily," she declared, her voice rising with conviction. "I am not your burden, and I will not be silent anymore." For a moment, her father's fury faltered, surprise flickering across his face as he processed her words, but it was quickly replaced by a simmering rage. "You'll regret this, Lily. I will make sure of it." Maybe, she replied, her voice firm, but I'd rather face the unknown than return to the life you've created for me. I choose freedom. Mr. Thompson nodded, pride shining in his gaze. And I will stand by you no matter what he tries. The atmosphere shifted, a palpable sense of defiance radiating from Lily as she stood her ground. You don't control me anymore, she said, her heart pounding as she faced the man who had cast a long shadow over her life. Her father stepped back, his expression a mixture of disbelief and fury, but Lily felt a sense of liberation wash over her. She had finally found her voice, her identity, and the strength to reclaim her life. Let's go, Lily, Mr. Thompson urged gently, sensing the moment had come for them to leave behind the darkness of her past. But just as they turned to leave, her father's voice rang out, sharp and filled with venom. You won't escape this, Lily. I will find a way to bring you back. As they walked away, the echo of his threat lingered in the air, a dark cloud overshadowing her newfound freedom. Yet, with each step, Lily felt lighter, the weight of her father's control lifting. The world beyond the confines of her father's influence awaited her, full of possibilities and hope. But the shadows of her past would not fade easily, and she knew the road ahead would be fraught with challenges. Are you ready? Mr. Thompson asked, his voice a steady anchor amidst the chaos. Lily took a deep breath, determination flooding her veins. I'm ready to face whatever comes next. As they stepped out into the world, the sunlight bathed them in warmth, a promise of brighter days ahead. But lingering in the back of her mind was the knowledge that her father would not relent easily. The confrontation had sparked a fire within her, igniting a fierce desire to reclaim her narrative. And as she walked beside Mr. Thompson, she could feel the strength of her newfound independence surging through her, ready to confront whatever awaited her in the shadows.